Forget the sanitized fairy tales of gentle forest nymphs. When you delve into the true, unvarnished archives of Ukrainian mythology, you don't find magic. You find a cold, suffocating fear. Reports passed down through generations speak of a specific, terrifying anomaly deep within our ancient forests. You will smell the cloying scent of wildflowers before you ever see her. But when that impossibly clean white linen finally pierces the heavy fog, it is already too late. You are completely hers. In the isolated, primeval woodlands of Ukraine. Where sunlight has struggled to reach the mossy floor for centuries, resides a phenomenon older than our modern anxieties. The Mavka. She is a psychological trap. Modern pop culture has severely misconstrued her, but historical folklore paints a far more harrowing picture. As a playful guardian of nature, a tragedy frozen in time. The essence of a human soul that met a violent, untimely end, forcefully denied passage into the eternal afterlife. She remains tethered here, trapped in a relentless purgatory between the world of the living and the absolute silence of the void. To understand the Mavka, you must first learn to listen to the woods. The silence here is not empty. It is the breath of a dark forest that is actively watching your every step, measuring your heartbeat. The Mavka does not merely walk through these trees, she manifests out of the very fabric of the mist when you least expect it. Witnesses across centuries do not report footsteps or the rustling of leaves. She is simply there. A white blur in the corner of your eye, accompanied by a sudden, unnatural drop in temperature that makes the frost bite deep into your skin. She is the physical embodiment of the dark forest's deepest, most closely guarded secrets. Draped in raw, unembellished linen, the traditional burial shroud of our ancestors, and wearing a heavy crown of weeds, she belongs entirely to the dark shadows. We must ask ourselves a terrifying question. What exactly happens to a human consciousness that refuses to fade? Is she watching us with a lingering, tragic longing for the life she lost? Or with a cold, hollow, predatory hunger? As we journey deeper into these dark tales, remember this one absolute rule. The forest never lies, but it is an expert at hiding the truth. So let us now venture deeper into the mist, leaving the safety of the known world behind, and face what waits in the dark. Before she became the phantom of the woods, who was she? When we examine the oldest tales, passed down in the hushed whispers of our ancestors, a consistent pattern emerges. The Mavka is always born from a catalyst of profound, devastating human grief. She is not a demon conjured from the underworld. She is the residual energy of a young woman who suffered a sudden, tragic demise, betrayal, unrequited love, or a desperate end in deep, dark waters. The forest does not create this entity. The ancient trees simply absorb her sorrow, wrapping it in a traditional shroud of white linen and crowning it with wildflowers. She is human tragedy, preserved and weaponized by nature itself. But do not allow her fragile, melancholic beauty to deceive your senses. This is where the true, unnerving, and grotesque reality of folklore reveals itself. From the front, she is an absolute vision of grace. Her face is so mesmerizingly perfect that it literally stops your breathing. Those who encounter her find themselves completely unable to move or look away. But the ancient archives carry a strict, life-saving warning. Analyze the details before you step forward. A Mavka casts no shadow under the pale moonlight. She leaves absolutely no footprints on the morning frost. She interacts with the physical world only when she chooses to deceive. She is a phantom projection. A beautiful lie designed to lure the living into the freezing embrace of the grave. The most horrifying revelation comes only if you manage to break her hypnotic hold and catch a glimpse of her from behind. The beautiful, pristine illusion instantly shatters into a nightmare. Beneath the long, cascading dark hair, there is a gruesome biological impossibility. She has no back. There is only a hollow, gaping void. A direct window into the cold, rotting earth, revealing the decaying truth of her existence. She is a flawless shell, wrapped around absolute emptiness. This shocking anatomical horror explains why her hunting method is so passive, yet so insidious. She does not chase her victims through the thickets like a common predator. Instead, she uses our deepest human empathy against us. She stands perfectly still in the dense fog, projecting an aura of vulnerability and loss. The closer you step to offer help, the closer you step to your own grave. Her hollow back is hidden by the shadows, waiting for you to walk right into the trap. To understand her genesis, we must examine the ancient pagan rituals surrounding the unbaptized and the lost. In the old world, a child who left the world before receiving a name, or a maiden who vanished beneath the black surface of a forest lake, belonged neither to heaven nor hell. They became the property of the wilderness. The moss grew over their memories, and the dark waters reshaped their spirits. They were reborn not as protectors, but as the raw vengeance of the cold earth. This transformation is not instantaneous. It is a slow, agonizing crystallization of sorrow. The human mind dissolves, leaving behind only the core emotion that marked their final moment alive. If it was betrayal, the Mavka becomes a mirror of that deceit. If it was abandonment, she becomes an endless vacuum, seeking to drag others into her absolute loneliness. She cannot remember her own human name, yet she remembers exactly how it felt to be entirely discarded by the world. When darkness completely blankets the landscape, the forest changes its frequency. A faint, ethereal melody begins to echo through the barren branches. It sounds like a distant, beautiful song of wildflowers. A hypnotic siren call that no mortal mind can easily resist. This is the music of the Mavka, a rhythmic trap designed to completely shatter your willpower. Those who hear it feel a sudden, overwhelming urge to abandon the safety of the trails and walk blindly into the brush. They walk as if in a trance, their feet carrying them deeper into the maze of ancient pines. They do not feel the sharp thorns tearing at their clothes. They do not notice the biting frost numbing their limbs. They only see her spinning slowly in a chaotic, mesmerizing dance of death. Her pristine white linen dress softly glows in the dark, cutting through the heavy shadows like a polished silver blade. She smiles, but her eyes remain entirely dead, reflecting only the void. The oldest legends warn that she will invite you to join her dance. To refuse is impossible. Her gaze has already paralyzed your resolve. But her touch carries absolutely no warmth, no love, no human comfort. It is an embrace of pure, unadulterated winter. As her frozen hands wrap around your neck, the rhythm of the forest accelerates violently. She begins to manipulate your senses, forcing an intense, as the unnatural cold locks your lungs. It is a grotesque spectacle. The victim laughs uncontrollably, while their heart struggles to beat, gasping for air that has turned to needles of ice. She does not kill out of anger or malice. She simply shares the absolute vacuum of her frozen existence. When the dance finally ends, the ethereal music stops, leaving only a lifeless, stiff body resting on the frozen moss. A tragic soul has created yet another tragedy, leaving a new monument of sorrow hidden deep within the woods. But her influence extends far beyond individual encounters. The Mavka's presence is an infectious atmosphere of silent, unstoppable decay. She does not always look for mortals. More often, they blindly wander into her localized pocket of profound, unnatural cold. It is a physical distortion in the air that slowly seeps into the soil, causing the surrounding plants to wither and freeze even in the height of summer. Those who stumble into this zone quickly lose their sense of direction. The trees seem to shift, closing paths behind them, creating an inescapable labyrinth. They are trapped in a waking nightmare, moving in slow, disorganized patterns toward her pale, stationary figure. She does not need to speak a single word or take a single step. Her silent, heavy gaze is all it takes. As the heavy mist slowly swallows the remaining light, the boundary between the living and the dead completely vanishes. Entire groups of travelers have been known to walk into these fog banks, never to be seen again. When search parties venture out days later, they find no tracks, no struggles, no blood, only an oppressive, unnatural silence that hangs over the clearing. The forest completely reclaims its secrets, leaving behind nothing but the eternal, rolling gray fog. Let us examine the dark chronicles left behind by 19th century ethnographies who dared to investigate these regional anomalies. In the deep districts of Policia, villagers spoke of entire summers where the cattle refused to enter certain patches of the woods. Sensing the static aura of a Mavka waiting behind the dense screen of weeping birches. One specific account from an old parish record details the discovery of 3 young woodcutters in the year 1874. They were found sitting upright against an ancient oak tree in the middle of July. Their skin was blue from severe hypothermia, and their faces were locked in wide, frozen grins of pure terror. Their tools lay untouched beside them, covered in a thin layer of unnatural frost. The official report blamed the weather, but the locals knew. The folklore expeditions also revealed that the nature of the Mavka changes depending on the geography of fear. In the high, jagged peaks of the Carpathian Mountains, she is known as the Nyavka, a harsher, rock-dwelling entity. There, she manifests near steep cliffs and hidden ravines, using her deceptive beauty to guide shepherds off the treacherous edges. The mountain fog becomes her cloak, and the howling wind mimics her sighs, masking the sudden drop into the rocky abyss. In contrast, the Mavka of the Policia swamplands is a creature of stagnant waters and choking mud. She rises from the black peat, her white dress stained with the rot of the marsh. Yet her face remains completely flawless. She stands where the ground seems solid, tempting lost travelers to take that one final, fatal step into the quicksand. The moss dampens her silence, and the glowing swamp lights mimic her dead eyes, turning the vast wetlands into a giant burial ground. Faced with such an insidious force, our ancestors developed complex occult rituals of protection. They learned that the wilderness could be negotiated with, but never fully trusted. Before entering the deep woods, one had to carry specific wards hidden in their clothing. The most powerful weapon against the Mavka was wormwood, bitter herb whose sharp scent could briefly pierce her hypnotic illusion, allowing a mortal to see the hollow void before it was too late. Another common defense was garlic or wild poppy seeds scattered along the threshold of the forest path. It was believed that the entity, bound by ancient laws of nature, would be forced to count every single seed before she could manifest her influence, buying the traveler precious time to escape the zone of cold. But the ultimate ward was cold iron. A simple iron nail pressed against the palm could break her psychic hold, as the metal represents human industry and civilization. If a Mavka drew too close, the elders instructed the victim to quickly turn their jacket inside out and backward. This symbolic act of inversion confused the phantom, mirroring her own backward, hollow nature and breaking the geometric trap of her gaze. For a few brief seconds, the illusion would flicker, revealing the rotting spine and the black void beneath the hair, giving the victim a chance to run without looking back. To look back meant instant and permanent recapture. But what of those exceedingly rare individuals who managed to survive an encounter with her? The archives showed that a meeting with the Mavka leaves a permanent, invisible scar on the human psyche. Survivors were never truly whole again. They spoke of a lingering, internal cold that no fire could warm, a permanent winter in their bones. They became detached from their families, spending hours staring blankly out the window at the distant tree line. As if listening to a song. Many eventually walked back into the woods, voluntarily years later, drawn by a delayed psychological pull that they could no longer resist. It is as if a piece of their soul remained trapped in her hollow back, calling the rest of their body home to the ice. The Mavka does not just steal life. She leaves a vacancy in the living world. A quiet infection that slowly, completely dismantles a person from the inside out until they willingly surrender to the deep fog. As we conclude this first chapter of our dark investigation into the shadow of our ancestors, we must look beyond the old text and face our reality. The ancient pine forests still stand, dense and largely unexplored in their deepest hearts. The myths are not mere stories invented to scare children around a warm fire. The fog still rolls over the mossy ground when the night is long and cold. They are the warnings of a culture that understood the absolute hostility of nature. When you stand at the edge of the woods and feel that sudden, inexplicable shiver run down your spine, remember what we have uncovered here. Remember the flawless face that masks a rotting grave. Remember the simple white linen dress that leaves no trace in the morning frost. For the forest never forgets the tragedies it has claimed. And the Mavka is still there, standing motionless in the freezing mist, waiting for someone to step off the safe path. Do not look back. Let us trace the linguistic roots of this entity to uncover the deep-seated terror embedded in her very name. Etymologists link the word Mavka to the ancient Slavic root nav, meaning the dead, the underworld, or the realm of passing souls. She is literally a manifestation of Nav, made visible to the living eyes. She is not an independent spirit of the trees, but an ambassador of the soil, a physical tongue through which the graveyard speaks to those who dare to trespass. This linguistic link separates her entirely from Western European concepts of fairies or playful pixies. The Slavic mind did not romanticize the wilderness. The forest was a place of survival, a dark wall that bordered the village safety. To name her after Nav was to acknowledge that the moment you crossed the tree line, you were walking on the ceiling of the underworld. One wrong step, one moment of weakness, and a fragile floor would give way, dropping you into the mists. Consider the structural design of her clothing, as documented in the earliest folk descriptions. She wears no colorful embroidery, no protective red threads, no traditional patterns that identify her with a specific human family or village. Her dress is raw, unrefined linen, the exact material used to wrap corpses before they were lowered into the dark earth. By wearing the shroud, she signals to the forest that she is already dead, completely immune to the laws of life. The lack of ornamentation is a critical detail in folklore analysis. In the old world, embroidery was a language of protection, a sacred geometry meant to shield the human body's vulnerabilities from evil spirits. A dress without decoration is an exposed body, an open door for the shadows. The Mavka's plain white dress is a declaration of absolute surrender to the void. She has no human identity left to protect. She has become an instrument of the forest's hunger. We must also analyze the secret composition of her intricate wildflower crown. It is not a festive wreath worn by young girls during summer celebrations. The elders called it a burial crown. It is woven from specific plants that thrive in darkness and rot. Nightshade, hemlock, wild daisies, and bitter wormwood. These plants do not symbolize life. They represent the numbing of the senses, the transition into sleep, and the preservation of a corpse in the damp ground. The scent of these specific flowers acts as a chemical catalyst for her hypnotic influence. When a traveler inhales the cloying fragrance cutting through the cold fog, it triggers a rapid neurological response. The mind slows down. Peripheral vision narrows into a dark tunnel, and the critical thinking faculties collapse. You stop questioning why a beautiful, silent woman is standing alone in a frozen thicket. You only feel an overwhelming, tragic desire to be near her. This brings us to the core psychological mechanism of the trap, the perversion of human loneliness. The Mavka manifests most frequently to those who are already isolated, physically or emotionally. A lonely shepherd, a grieving traveler, a discarded outcast. She detects the vacancy in a human heart from miles away, using her supernatural aura to mimic the exact shape of that void. She appears as the ultimate answer to your isolation, a silent partner in your sorrow. The tragedy of the encounter is that the victim willingly walks into their own destruction, driven by a deep desire for connection. You think you are saving a broken, vulnerable girl lost in the fog, but you are actually validating your own doom. The entity feeds on this exact exchange of empathy. She absorbs your living warmth to fuel her static illusion, leaving you to freeze in the very spot where you thought you found comfort. It is an absolute cycle of cold. As the final minutes of this first episode draw to a close, look closely at the modern landscape. We believe we have conquered the old terrace with our bright lights, asphalt roads, and digital screens. But the ancient forests do not care about our technology. They operate on a timeline of centuries, not seconds. The pockets of unnatural cold still exist, hidden away in valleys where the cell signal dies and the GPS completely fails to track your physical position. The true face of the Mavka remains unchanged, preserved in the dark archives of our ancestors' collective memory. She stands as a permanent reminder that some tragedies cannot be healed, and some spaces cannot be civilized. When you next walk near the dense tree line as the evening fog begins to rise, do not trust the smell of sudden flowers. Do not follow the white linen blink in the dark. Protect your empathy. Watch your shadow. And never, ever step off the safe path. But the mystery does not end in the frozen mist. The worst is yet to come. In the upcoming second part of our dark investigation, we will uncover the forbidden occult rituals our ancestors used to fight back, and the horrific cost of surviving her touch. The boundary between our world and the underworld is collapsing, and the forest demands a final answer. The second chapter is already waiting for you, right here on the Shadow of Ancestors channel. Do not let the fog swallow your path. Subscribe to Shadow of Ancestors now. Turn on notifications, and ensure you do not miss the terrifying conclusion of the Mavka's true chronicle. Share your own encounters in the comments below. If you dare, stay vigilant. Stay on the safe trails. And remember, the darkness is always watching. We will see you in part 2, deep within the shadows.